Hey guys, welcome to another Trade Genius podcast. Got Bob with me. We are going to talk about the dollar. Last time Trump was in office, the dollar did really well. Is that going to happen again? And why does that matter? Let's dive in.
Trade Genius.
All right, Bob. So is Trump going to pump the dollar again or what?
I think if he pumps the dollar, it's the dollar is going to go with him because you have the Korean won, the euro, Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, British sterling. All these currencies are in big trouble. And, even if they want to kill the dollar, I think the debt repudiation and the weakness of other currencies around the world are going to keep the dollar stronger. So you have to ask yourself, well, what does well with a strong dollar? And you have energy likes a strong dollar. The bond yields will like a strong dollar. And the stock market will not like a strong dollar.
And crypto won't either.
And crypto won't either. So that's right. So those are the kind of things we're thinking about. So, this cycle says, well, we're going to cycle down, right? And if we cycle down, let's say Trump can't avoid a dollar spillage, right? Then energy is not going to like it, but crypto's going to like it, and gold's going to like it, and the stock market's going to like it. And so that's kind of where we rest right now. I thought it was really interesting to see the cycles on this. A lot of people are thinking that the dollar is going to collapse because, the dollar is supposed to collapse because America's evil, but they don't understand the dollar is measured against other currencies. It's not measured against, some sort of, God standard. And so the dollar can go up while we're all dying too. People don't get that, So I thought we'd share this with you guys. I think we're at an inflection point here as well. And the other thing that we were going to show, but I'll just talk about it too, is we talked about a little bit yesterday. Option volume and option activity is at max record levels. The good news is that a lot of times that'll propel the market short term. The bad news is when they decide not to roll these option contracts, you're going to see a sharp pullback in the markets. So watch the open interest on it as often as you possibly can. It'll give you a clue whether or not they're going to keep pumping this Ponzi or if they're going to allow a really strong pullback. And I guess you guys know where we sit on this thing. We're looking for some sort of pullback between now and the inauguration. So that's what I wanted to share today. Phil, if you want anything to add to that, please do so.
Yeah, I think if we're going to go into a recession, which I still think we are, and I think the inauguration is kind of a sell the news event, although I think that might get front run. But if you look back, I think it's markets down after that. Why is that? And that's because the headlines right now sound great. Sounds great for crypto, sounds great for energy. But in reality, again, the bigger forces at play here are the business cycles, right? Those are multi-year cycles. And I don't think the entire next 4 years is going to be bearish. I just think the first two are going to be problematic. And then I think it's going to be really bullish actually out the other side, especially if they decide to jumpstart things again with QE5, right? And it's a similar, and that does work. I mean, look what happened in 08, 09. They stuffed, they didn't overstuff things like they did in COVID, but they put money to work and the economy started to expand again. Businesses started to take out loans and expand their business and yada, yada, yada. I think that's a much better place to be after a washout, right? After some of this, we have to have some deleveraging. I mean, come on, this isn't healthy, right? So, I think during that time, I think the dollar, like it historically does, will go up. And I think the dollar could actually challenge, the previous highs on the dollar index was 120, and I think you can still get there. That being said, I think also too, that means TLT is going to be rocketing past $150 again, maybe as high as 200. We'll have to see where this washes out at. I don't think like you said, risk on assets aren't going to do well. Crypto's not going to do well. And in fact, right now, if you really take a pulse of what's going on, take a pulse of people's opinions, they kind of are now on board with that sell into the inauguration, pull back, and then make a run toward the typical cycle high of which is now post-halving would be Q4 of 2025. And I'm of the mindset, I'm kind of taking a contrarian view for the first time on that because I think the macro forces, the economic forces matter more. And they've been conveniently lining up with the halving cycles. So I actually think, and no one's talking about this, but you might have a chance here where 104 is the cycle high and we top out. Or we get one more push higher. We do make a higher high here over the next couple of weeks because there is typically a push into the Christmas timeframe, the winter solstice. If you go back and look at highs in Bitcoin, especially cycle highs, a lot of times they come around that time frame, which is that December 21 to 23rd area where you typically get your winter solstice, right? For whatever reason, Bitcoin likes to top out into that time period. And, so that's 2 weeks out. So potentially we could push up. Maybe we do make a new high, but I would be very careful there. That's a potential high for a really long time. I mean, that could be like an 18-month high where we pull back. And the mass, if you talk about the herd always being wrong, that would be a perfect setup for that, right? Because they don't get a high in 2025. They don't get a sell the news event in the inauguration. It gets front run. And then the cycle theory kind of breaks because we're really following macro flows, or we're following macro liquidity flows, right? That's really what Bitcoin is, a big neon sign for liquidity in the system. And if that's going south,
Right.
which in a recession it should be, and we already are seeing it with the net liquidity flows are not following Q4 like we showed yesterday. I think you should start adding that up and start thinking about that objectively. I think we might have a high here in a couple of weeks on Bitcoin.
Hey, look, you didn't have Syria collapsing in 1 week on your bingo card, nor the French government, no confidence vote, nor the German government, no confidence vote, nor China, Xi sending troops to a naval base, okay? And then you have 30 million unemployed over there and hundreds of thousands not getting paid. None of those things were on the bingo card in 2024. And these things, what happens in this environment, things happen so fast. We can't be glib, and I'd rather be cautious than glib, and I'd rather miss some upside than miss a lot of downside because I think it's going to catch people. I mean, just look at the Bitcoin action here too. That 100K move, it pushed down. People expected it to pop right back up again, and what did it do? It pushed down another $5,000. Will scare the children. Earlier today, it looks like it might be abating. But that's how fast these things happen. And if some wrong person has to liquidate, when I mean wrong, I mean long and big, has to liquidate, there's not enough liquidity in the markets to absorb the selling. And you're going to get, I hate to use the word crash, but you're going to get a pretty painful sell-off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we got to watch for. Look, always buy those, even if you're in a bear market. But don't confuse that with a new bull. And that's all we're saying here is I'm telling people, anybody listen to me, get progressively defensive over the next 6 weeks, and you should have already started. And then still take advantage of upside, but you don't have to be fully invested to keep making money here in this environment. So with that, guys, come check us out, tradelikeagenius.com. It's definitely going to be interesting. These next 6 weeks will not be calm. But remember, volatility equals profit, and hopefully we'll be on the right side of those trades for you. Thanks for listening.
Trade Genius.